Hello again guys, Docs here again with yet another Australian StarCraft 2 replay from MLG Dallas, courtesy of Team Nv. This is only going to be a one single game. I don't have the entire best of 3 series, unfortunately. We managed to somehow lose the other 2 games, unable to save them. But this game is the highlight of the series. It is a must-watch. It is one of the craziest games you'll ever see, featuring Complexity's QXC spawning as the Red Terran on the northern side of Daybreak, and his opponent, Nv.YoonYJ, one of our recent retirees, unfortunately. YoonYJ announcing prior to his travel to MLG that he would be retiring post-event, so this is his last competitive drive, I guess you could say. So we're very, very sad to see YoonYJ go, but he did go out with an incredible bang, putting on an amazing show with this game right here. So, there won't really be much to talk about as far as build orders and stuff go for the first couple of minutes of the game. Obviously TVT doesn't really get too crazy. I mean, it's generally something like a 1-Rax expand, or one of the players opts to go for a gas, and, well, this is the other option right here. We see QXC going for his gas before the barracks, which is one of the, I guess you could say there's maybe 3, maybe 4 variations in this matchup, but ultimately there's really not a lot of options. So we do see, as I pointed out, there's the gas, there's the barracks, and YoonYJ will be throwing down his barracks, and also getting a gas, but not before the barracks. So once again, this was Game 3 in a best of 3 series. This is round, I believe, round 4 or round 5, not quite sure which one, of the MLG Dallas 2012 open bracket. And this was occurring about the same time Moonglade was playing against MC. So those replays are actually already up on the channel. If you haven't seen them, make sure you check them out. I don't want to spoil too much, but Game 2 is freaking crazy. You have to see the Daybreak game. I feel like maybe there's like a weird trend where these guys just put on insane games when it comes to Daybreak, because you're going to see that right here. So now, because QXC did pick up that gas before the barracks, it will allow him to get his factory immediately. You can see how that times out nicely, having just enough gas to put down that factory as the barracks completes, and still having just enough minerals to grab the orbital command as well. So now QXC going to be getting that second depot, and later on he'll probably seal this off, allowing, or I guess you could say preventing, Hellions from running on by and sniping all the SCVs in the main. YoonYJ also going for a similar build, getting that factory as fast as he possibly can. But if we just compare the difference between progress here, YoonYJ about 1/3 through the factory, as QXC has almost completed his already. And one very, very important thing to note is that he does have his second gas completed. So this pretty much guarantees cloaked Banshees. There's not a lot of options there. And there you go, throwing down the starport on the tech lab, which was already pre-made by the barracks. Now, one thing you have to be careful of in these sort of scenarios is that your opponent will more often than not go for a scan at around the 6-minute mark. And I mean, he's got all of his infrastructure very, very close to the command center. So one single scan in this area, revealing that there is already a tech lab on the starport, kind of gives away what you're planning to do. Now, having said that, it's not like the Cloaked Banshees are a big surprise in this matchup. They're very, very effective. Even if your opponent does scout them, you can still at least provoke a response. I mean, it's not like the Banshees are shut down as soon as they've been scouted. It's not as easy to shut down as DTs, where it's like, well, I've got detection, now I just keep my army at the front of my base and you can't really do much. Because it still forces you to either preserve scans if you want to move out, it forces you to keep Marines near your mineral line, save up scans on one of your orbitals, even put down missile turrets, which of course requires that additional investment of an engineering base. So it does provoke quite a response from your opponent, even if you only make those 2 initial Cloaked Banshees. And of course, if you don't do too much economic damage, I mean, even if you get there, they've already got the turrets up, they've already got Marines in place, you can't do any damage to them whatsoever, you can still retreat with the Banshees, move away, and you can just use them for things later on. So maybe when their army moves out, you start picking off Marines, or you camp around the natural, prevent them from taking an expansion, even prevent them from taking the watchtowers, which is really, really effective. We actually see that a lot from Terrans going mech against Zerg. We see the Banshee kind of hovering around the watchtower so that the Zerglings or the Roaches or whatever can't occupy it. Now both players just applying a little bit of pressure with their Hellions here. I don't think anyone's killed anything yet. Oh, actually, QXC killed those 2 Marines that were poking around at the front of his base, but he hasn't managed to kill any SCVs. The Hellion goes down. YoonYJ does force a little bit of repair on this here. Oh, is he gonna lose? No, very, very quick reaction there. Pulling the Hellions back. Oh, but he does end up losing one. trading a Hellion for a Marine, which isn't exactly the most efficient trade, but what can you do? So now the Banshee is in place. Now one thing to keep in mind is that in this series, YoonYJ did lose the first map to Cloak's Banshee Harass. So QXC going back to his, I guess you can't really say roots, but going back to what really worked for him in that first series. And look at that, the Banshee just being sniped at the last second before exiting that scan radius. YoonYJ trying to get into the main base, and the depot does not raise in time. YoonYJ has a good number of Hellions in that mineral line. Let's keep an eye on the workers killed. Oh, with that blue bar filling up very quickly as more and more SCVs go down. 7 now dead. Wow, and this is really, really hurting QXC at the moment. He's trying to expand, but he can't even finish that command center. This is really, really hurting the economy. Fortunately, this Banshee was able to pick off all of the Hellions, but at what cost? I mean, the Banshee would have liked to have been over at YoonYJ's base doing some damage, but it had to stick around here and clean up that attack. So a little bit of a misstep there from QXC, unable to raise that depot before the Hellions got inside. So we can see now YoonYJ actually picking up a cloak of his own. I really like this decision, because it basically means, okay, he delayed the second command center, he did so much economic damage that it's guaranteed that QXC is going to be on top of his mules. He really wants to recover that lost damage. So by dropping all those mules, he's not going to be preserving energy for scans. If we just double check YoonYJ, I think he actually cancelled Cloak. He chose not to pick it up. So it looks like he's just happy to move out with the Marines and the Hellions. Does he get the Banshee? Yes, he does, but there's another one at the natural. And he only just has enough energy for one scan on this command center. This one is completely dry. These two Marines aren't going to be enough to deal with the Banshee, though. Waiting for these two Vikings to come home, and goodbye, Marine. So now QXC getting a bit of economic damage of his own. YoonYJ hoping to get up the ramp again, but unfortunately it's completely blocked off. And with tanks and Marines up there, there is no chance. And oh my god, the scan was misplaced. YoonYJ does not manage to take out the Banshee. We'll just check the energy on this command center. 27 energy. It's going to be a long time before YoonYJ can deal with this Banshee. This is a huge upset. He is not going to be happy about that. So now all of the SCVs transferring to the natural, trying to evade this Banshee. QXC not noticing it this time, but the tanks and the Marines are moving out. The Hellions and the Marines do see them thanks to the watchtower. And YoonYJ is just pulling all of his SCVs. He's not going to sit around at the natural. Looks like almost enough energy is ready for the scan. Oh, and they actually... the Banshee ran out of energy, but here we go. Looks like all the SCVs and the Banshee and the Hellions engaging the tanks. Let's watch the workers killed here. 17, 19... Oh my god, so many of YoonYJ's SCVs going down here. 22 SCVs have been killed. But he did manage to kill all the tanks and Marines. Oh, and this Banshee picking up so many kills. Cloaking yet again. Does YoonYJ have enough energy for a scan? He does have enough energy. The Banshee looks like it might just get out of the scan range. No, going down over the mineral line. It looks like YoonYJ has managed to stabilize. So just checking the workers killed. 29 SCVs killed by QXC. Only 11 for YoonYJ, and if we compare the worker count now, 30 to 19. A devastating lead for QXC. YoonYJ again hoping to do some damage at the front here. Siege tank really pushing him away. If we have a look up here, YoonYJ has a Banshee of his own, but it does not have Cloak. So let's just keep an eye on the kill count of that Banshee. Actually up to 9 already. QXC's Banshee coming along, hoping to maybe kamikaze into the Banshee of YoonYJ. And I really like this technique from QXC, using his SCVs to repair the SCV that is being attacked, buying him a little bit of extra time. Normally it takes 2 hits for a Banshee to kill an SCV, but if you repair it enough and quickly enough, it actually takes a 3rd hit, which is a very cool technique that we don't see often enough in TVT. So YoonYJ just hoping to keep this Banshee alive, and look at this, actually taking a 3rd base? What on earth? This greed from YoonYJ, absolutely crazy. QXC now dropping a bunch of mules. It's quite clear that YoonYJ does not have Cloak researched. QXC comfortable in dropping those mules, and this Viking is going to end the reign of terror of the 17 kill Banshee. Oh, goodbye Banshee. She will not be remembered in space. So YoonYJ clearly going mech at this stage with his 4th factories on the way. I don't think we have an armory yet. No sign of an armory. Looks like he's going to be relying on just tanks and Vikings at this stage, allowing him to get that air cover. And he does have a decent number of Hellions. Let's check the Hellion count. 10 Hellions, 2 Vikings, 7 Marines, and a Raven. Just a nice move there, preventing the Cloaked Banshees from doing much more. QXC actually predicting more Banshees coming in from the north. Maybe even expecting a drop of some sort. Does QXC know about the mech? There's nothing too telling there, but I mean, he can probably assume, based from the opening and the lack of barracks, that it would probably be mech. And these additional Vikings plus Raven probably spells it out. So QXC looking to move out across the map again, and this time there will not be 20 plus SCVs moving across the map to intercept them. This is a good, actually devastating number of Marines. We check the army count, 33 for QXC, 40 for YoonYJ. But I think YoonYJ is kind of spread all over the place with the Hellions over here, Vikings and a Raven over here. Raven really not going to be helpful at all in this scenario, and neither are the Vikings actually. So effectively, YoonYJ has nothing but Hellions to try and hold this. The tank's sieging up at the bottom ramp. He needs to move up before the Marines get vision. This is a very precarious spot for YoonYJ. Now, actually, more Vikings coming out on the map. This is not going to help YoonYJ at all, and he doesn't have any tanks in production. Pulling SCVs again! So many SCVs going down. Look at this, 37, 38, 39, over 40 kills for QXC now. YoonYJ's economy is in tatters, being forced to land the Vikings to deal with this, losing almost all of his Hellions in this engagement. And look at that, there is no SCVs left here. The main's still looking pretty sketchy. The third base, not a lot happening here. Checking that harvester count again, 45 to 32. But fortunately, keep in mind, YoonYJ has that third orbital command. 3 mules every 30 seconds. Pretty damn good at recovering your economy. So just keep an eye on this production tab, as we can see Stim, Combat Shield, N+1, all on the way for QXC. He is so close to having Stim. Meanwhile, YoonYJ getting that blue flame and only just starting a siege tank production now. So if we keep an eye on these guys up here with a well-placed point defense drone, although he doesn't have the energy for quite a while, these Vikings could actually, maybe get in here, kill this Viking, land, kill some SCVs off, and prevent Marauders from taking them out. Probably not the best investment, because I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but the point defense drone actually intercepts the Marauder shots, but obviously not the Marines and the tanks, because their attacks are instantaneous. So that's what I was referring to about the Marauders. I like that YoonYJ is keeping his Hellions here, preventing and keeping an eye on that third base, knowing exactly when QXC wants to take it. I don't know if it's actually intentional, but it's working out nicely. And not going to see any point defense drones in this circumstance, actually dropping a auto turret, which is going to be preventing the gas harvesting, just for a moment. QXC dealing with that pretty handily, and YoonYJ getting away without losing any Vikings. So now, with that +1 attack almost complete for QXC, we can see it's going to be a bio/tank marine style against pure mech. And I don't really watch a lot of TVT. There's not a great deal of TVT happening in Southeast Asia, especially in Australia. I think we have like maybe 5, maybe 4 Terran players in the whole country. So we don't get to see a lot of it. But I'm not sure how Yoon usually goes against bio play. More often than not, I see him playing against a lot of mech. There's heaps of mech versus mech happening these days. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. Yeah, this single Marine with his +1 in his stim, he's keen to do some damage. He scouts out the expansion, says, oh yeah, I'm going to kill me some SCVs. Meanwhile up here, QXC moving out, he wants to shut down this third base. He has no idea how long this has been up. If he checks the mineral patches, he can see that some of them are almost completely dried up. So that one is down to about 30% capacity. He can see this has been up for quite a while. So now starting that +1 armor. YoonYJ's siege mode just finishing now with +1 vehicle weapons on the way. It looks like both armies circumventing each other completely unaware. YoonYJ is not going to be able to save that third base. It's going to be down in a matter of moments. YoonYJ has to be wondering, where is QXC's army? He scans, he sees a little bit out the front, and now he realizes this command center may not be able to be saved. There's a decent number of Marines there. He's repairing like crazy, trying to keep that command center alive, and also going for a third snipe of his own. Practically resetting the game back to 2 base versus 2 base. Ooh, but YoonYJ actually manages to keep his command center. I don't know if QXC is going to be able to do the same, and look at all these blue flame Hellions with that +1 attack just seconds away from completing. So many SCVs swarming in here. Oh, and they go right into the blue flame and the siege tanks. YoonYJ is devastating the front base of QXC, but meanwhile, QXC has done the exact same thing to YoonYJ. The Hellions and the tanks at the front could not hold. Being forced to lift yet another command center. SCV train going into the main, and there is just no units here. YoonYJ is going to be hoping that these units that pop can get the tanks down into the mineral line, repairing them like crazy, but it's not going to be enough. MLG now losing all of his SCVs. Look at the worker destruction. Over 100 SCV kills for QXC. Over 50 for MLG. MLG wants to get up the ramp here and start doing some serious damage. He has the vision. But with one siege tank at the top, it's going to be tricky for him to push up. And that is quite a decent number of bio and SCVs. It's going to get a little bit sketchy. MLG cancelling his production there. Lifting up all of his structures. And deciding it is time to relocate. So the third base actually landing again after QXC departed. The second base deciding he needs to relocate elsewhere. And the main base also. I like that MLG decided to block his opponent's fourth, or prospective fourth, with that barracks. It's kind of something we see a lot in Terran versus Protoss, where you lift a factory and land it at their third, because it's not like you really need the factory unless you want to go double starport for some crazy Viking production or something. So it's very cool. He's doing the same sort of concept, but he's not going to use the barracks, so that's what that's all about. Although you'd have to be a little bit cautious, because you can't make a factory if the barracks dies. So if you lose the barracks, you're going to be limited to just 4 factories. I say just. It's like saying you're going to be limited to producing carriers from only 4 Stargates. Alrighty, QXC doing a decent job of holding here. MLG playing very cautiously, knowing he should not risk everything to push up this ramp. Marines poking in to try and take out these Vikings, and MLG was actually unsieged at that exact moment. Luckily, allowing the Marines to survive. Except for that guy. QXC is meanwhile relocated over to the space here. I believe this was his second, his natural expansion. Picking up a bunch of SCVs, and he's actually going to be elevating his SCVs over here. Or shuttling them, I should say. This is a very, very precarious position for both players to be in. This is when you really start to see the smart plays come out, right? Like, this is when it starts to come down to who has the better decision making. It's all a tightrope walk for both players. It's all about seeing who can maintain their balance throughout the game, dealing with that pressure. Oh, and 3 Blue Flame Hellions moving into this expansion of QXC. More SCVs going down. Look at how disgusting that is. 23 minutes into the game, it looks like a ZVT or something with the number of worker kills. QXC now moving his army, or a little bit of his army, stimming in to deal with these Hellions. Thanks to the Medivac and those upgrades, they should be able to deal with that handily. The army situated over at MLG's base, not doing a great deal. Did manage to repair this factory. He's producing a lot of Hellions. He managed to drop so many mules and get so much economy out of these 3 bases that he has a huge surplus of minerals. But he does not have a great deal of gas. Actually, he has no gas income. Look at that. 0 gas income, only 19 workers. But on the flip side, QXC, with only 23 workers of his own, and a lot of them are moving around with his army. So the economy of QXC really in shambles, but MLG just not feeling like he can really press forward. It's not worth the risk. You can sit back, get as much economy out of these 3 bases as you can, and then build up a force strong enough to deal with QXC. But if you rush in, lose all of your tanks, it's all over. There's no coming back from that. Now let's have a look at QXC's vision. He doesn't know about this base here. He doesn't know this base landed again, and he knows nothing about this down here. At the moment, he must assume that maybe MLG took back his main base, or maybe that MLG has a base over here. It's really hard to know exactly what he's thinking at this stage. Meanwhile, MLG knows exactly what's going on in QXC town. He sees the army relocating here to defend this expansion. He knows that this command center was still fine, and it's most likely to be relocating down here. And here we go, looks like MLG wants to move up. It's a very scary position with so many stim marauders. Marauders are focusing on the Hellions though. MLG picked up some good kills there. Throwing down the scan, trying to press that position against QXC's tanks. I don't think QXC has enough for a scan. No, he has 1 scan. Only 1 scan in the bank. He cannot contest this army of MLG thanks to his air support provided by these Vikings and Banshee. Look at these 2 lazy Vikings. Who do they think they are? We're too cool to attack a command center. Let's just chill down here. And oh my god, QXC has discovered this base. MLG already relocating. It's insane. It looks for a moment there like he was going to lose that base, but getting out of there before he could lose anything at all. The SCV's retreating back to what was once upon a time the third. And all the structures relocating back into the main base. MLG hoping to catch the army out of position. QXC getting a really good scan and a really good siege, but it looks like the brute force of MLG's army is going to be enough to push through here. And now looking at the supply, 23 army supply versus 42. And MLG with a superior worker count as well. We take a look up here. Oh, goodbye Banshee. QXC's army consists almost entirely of just those Marines. Very, very precarious position. I think we just had a Banshee get shot down here as well. So that's pretty much it for the aggression of QXC, but it looks like he wants to push out anyway. He really needs to make something happen. He knows that with his opponent's superior economy, he can't hope to fight back on this one base. Doing a great job of focusing down all of YoonYJ's units. Actually, YoonYJ losing everything here. The tank's way out of position. One of those annoying pathing issues that you experience on Daybreak all the time, where half of your army chooses the south path and the other half chooses the north path as you attack move from watchtower to watchtower. So let's just compare that army supply again. QXC now doubling the supply of YoonYJ. YoonYJ's production limited to just Hellions and Banshees at this stage. QXC gets another cash scan on YoonYJ's base, seeing those two more factories. He knows he needs to go in for the kill. And can just Hellions really hold this? I mean, it's only... Oh, actually, there's a few extra Marines there. It's really going to come down to if you can get a good sweep with that blue flame into the big Marine batch. That's what it's going to be all about. Oh, and SCV's coming in to seal the deal. This looks like it could be well more than enough. SCV's getting a huge surround. Let's just watch that worker killed count go up even more. 125 plus kills. No, there we go. For QXC. Doing a great job, actually, of picking off more. Oh, the SCV is getting a surround on that tank. Goodbye. And more reinforcements coming in. It looks like they might actually be able to pick off the remaining SCVs and maybe even deal with the Hellions. YoonYJ knows it. He needs to get the hell out of there. More reinforcements on the way, and this Banshee is going to be instrumental. I think it's able to pick off these Marines in one hit. No, 2 hits each Marine. Now keep in mind, QXC is still limited to just this one base. 27 workers to 26. So despite YoonYJ having these 3 command centers on the map, QXC still has quote-unquote superior economy. But looking at that supply, I mean, ooh, sorry, just losing the camera there. Looking at the supply, YoonYJ's army now doubling QXC, and QXC knows that he can't even build a command center down here. He saved up money for it, then realized he can't do it. Now struggling, building units from all of these barracks, actually not all of them, just a few of them, and trying to get some Vikings on the map as well to regain that air control, because without it, there's no way he can contest the tanks. QXC is about to discover yet another one of YoonYJ's bases. One Marauder versus a lot of SCVs. Oh, 2 Marines coming in to help out. Certainly evens up the odds. YoonYJ not messing around, not gonna let the SCVs fend for themselves, bringing all of the Hellions home. Looks like a huge batch of Hellions getting into the mineral line of QXC yet again. Really capitalizing on QXC focusing on the expansion over there. Looking at the workers killed now, 83 versus 150. And now, QXC down to 17 versus 27. Shambles do not even begin to describe the economy, the scrappiness of this game, the outmaneuvering of relocating bases, of moving around different paths on the map to try and outwit each other. It's beautiful. It's very, very rare that you get to see a game like this in TVT. But man, when you do... Oh my god, and these these Banshees don't have cloak. It looks like YoonYJ landed all the Vikings to try and hold that attack earlier. Now he has absolutely nothing to protect these Banshees. YoonYJ scans out the ramp, sees the tank siege, sees a huge ball of bio sitting right at the top of the ramp, decides he wants to flank, go around the back. But QXC anticipating it, splitting his army between both of the ramps, allowing him to intercept these units as they come up. Is YoonYJ going to turn around? No, he gets right up into the base. QXC splitting those SCVs yet again, lifting for some reason. Kind of letting his opponent get better access to the SCVs. And wow! We have seen almost 250 SCVs die, and there you go, QXC calls the GG, unable to afford even a single SCV at the end of that game. So YoonYJ did take the victory against QXC in that open bracket match, 2-1. So thank you for watching. Make sure you guys keep an eye on the channel. We will have more games for you soon from the 2012 MLG Dallas Championships.